Hi everybody, how's everyone doing this week? I can't believe we are rolling through. We'll be in England and Scotland not too far from now. Wanted to talk a little bit further about England, Scotland, sort of the farms and sort of the media. I think we're going to get to see a lot. So today I really just want to give us a few things to think about as we continue this process of learning about England and Scotland, and then when we get there, some of the things that maybe we can look for. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, when we talk about agriculture in the United States, there's a few things that tend to come up over and over again. One being animal welfare, two being sort of that environment. And both of those are hot contested topics, things that we see in the media, and things that have a lot of passion behind them. So I sort of wanted you to have a little background about the way the UK handles some of these things so that when you get there you can start comparing them based on what you know from the United States. So the UK is extremely advanced in their animal welfare acts, basically. Their first act, which is probably the first in the world, 1822, was the Act to Prevent Cruel and Improper Treatment of Cattle. And so over the years they have made since 1822, multiple animal care acts. Everything from dogs to zoo animals to how you travel with your animal, how do you feed. The latest one was the Animal Welfare Act of 2007. Even before this act, it was and these are, I've taken these words straight off of their government website, so it's a little British English here. So it's cruel to beat, kick, overdrive, overload, torture, terrify any animal. I think all farmers would agree with some of these. Cause unnecessary suffering through transportation, take part in fighting or baiting of an animal, poisonous or injurious substances being administered, permit operations to be carried out without due care and humanity. Unnecessary suffering to an animal that is being destroyed or provided for food. So all of these, I think you would see that the USDA and the United States have done similar things over time, but the UK has sort of been a little more liberal and a little more advanced in some of these welfare acts. It's illegal to course and hunt a captive animal that is liberated in an injured, mutilated, or exhausted condition, or course and hunt a captive animal in an enclosed space from which it has no reasonable chance to escape. So we've got a lot of laws that you'll find related with some of these acts. The Farm Animal Welfare Council is a government body that is sort of put out there to monitor some of these things. Those of you who know, Ohio had something similar a few years ago where we had a ballot initiative go across voters in which we created the Livestock Care Standards Board here in Ohio. And I think this Farm Animal Welfare Council sort of reminds me a little bit of that. They're a board that has identified 5 freedoms, and that if maintained means the welfare of your livestock is good. And they say at all times animals should have these 5 freedoms, and these are the laws that they sort of follow. And so the 5 freedoms that they must, from hunger and thirst. They must be free from hunger and thirst, have access to fresh water, maintain a healthy diet, free from discomfort. Environment should be appropriate, including shelter and comfortable resting areas. From pain, injury, or disease. You must ensure prevention of illness. Freedom to express normal behavior. So they need sufficient space, proper facilities, the company of their own kind. And then from fear and distress. You must provide conditions and treatment which avoid mental suffering. Again, all things I think most animal caregivers would agree with. Some of the more advanced things you'll find, they have a lot more rules and regulations in terms of antibiotics in animals, hormones. You'll see a lot of their things saying that all of their meat produced in the UK is hormone free. So they've already sort of, some of the things that we see coming on today have already happened. They've had a lot of health issues in terms of mad cow disease, BSE, hoof and mouth. So a lot of those major devastating diseases have happened in the UK. And I don't want to go too far in depth because I know a few of you are going to be talking about some of these issues in your group presentation. But I wanted to, get you thinking about what some of these things are, that they really are more advanced in some of their animal welfare laws. And I don't know that advanced is the right word. They're a little more progressive in how they handle things. They do have tons of environmental regulations. And there's a Department of Environment, Food, and Rural Affairs. And originally I thought I'm going to walk you through some of these environmental regulations, but the more I looked at them, the more I was reminded of one of the gentlemen I think we'll visit again this year, telling us that his regulations that he got at the beginning of every year were in a book that thick in terms of his farm and the environmental regulations that he needed to follow. Everything from the water quality to the air quality to how you handle manure management, how you handle water runoff, how you handle everything on the countryside related to the environment. Sorry. So there's a ton of regulations, and I would encourage you, if you're really interested in some of these, go to DEFRA and thumb through. There's a lot of new issues, so if you haven't picked your topic, this would be a great place to go as well. But they are very, very, again, much ahead of what we're doing. The farmer that I'm talking about, he was talking about these regulations in reference to a large manure handling pit that he had on his farm. We were asking him about the regulations, and he said that there was rules about how many feet that had to be from a fence line, how many feet that had to be from a road, and then how he could, he couldn't spread it if it was frozen ground. And you're going to start seeing a lot of these are things that we're dealing with in Ohio now as we talk about water quality. One thing that was interesting, fences always had to be so far off of the road was another sort of environmental safety thing that he had talked about. So I think we'll see a lot of those, and I would encourage you to ask questions on these while we're over there. Apologize, I'm getting over a cold. One thing that I really find interesting, and I want to perk your interest, is the UK has done a lot for getting young farmers. And since we're in agriculture, we're looking at agriculture, we're all younger people, and we understand that in the US this is a huge concern of people taking over farms, sort of this farm succession, the planning behind that, and the ability for young people to get into farming. And what I think is a really cool program, and I have this sort of pamphlet on it if you would like to read through it. It's pretty cool. They've done on-farm training. They do a bunch of things for young farmers. Who does these things for them? Who funds this? Well, McDonald's. Let's see if this video will play for us. And I will put this link up too, so if you want to watch it again. Let's see if we can. Yeah, a video in a video.
One of the challenges we face in the industry is how we move from an ageing population of farmers into getting new young farmers into the industry. We've got lots of change going on, lots of new technologies and new ideas, and for that to flourish we need young people into the industry who can grasp those opportunities and really rise to the challenge of producing more food.
I think as a young farmer today, it's very different to how it used to be with all the modern technology and knowledge that we have nowadays.
The big change in farming in the last 10 years is we have to be much more market-led. We have to understand what our consumers, what our customers want, and we have to produce it.
It isn't a straightforward 9 to 5 job. You have to use business skills, management skills, as well as the basic husbandry skills of being an agriculturalist and working with the land and the soil.
At McDonald's, we are a huge buyer of British and Irish produce, and we're a big supporter of
He did.
farming sectors. What's vital is that we've
He's saying
got
McDonald's.
enough beef farmers, enough dairy farmers, potato farmers growing good quality produce for the future. Farm Forward is a long-term commitment. It's more than just a one-year program. So we're looking at how we can show that commitment through various initiatives over a sustained period of time for our farmers. So one of the programs that we're looking at through Farm Forward is a training program for industrial placements that places them on farms for a 6-month period, being mentored by the most progressive farmers in the UK. So students will learn everything from the quality of producing food on the farm to how that food goes through our supply chain and our suppliers for it to be delivered into restaurants, and then the care and the attention that we take in those restaurants. So it's understanding the whole process of the initial production of food to what customers' demands are, so how that food is served to them in restaurants.
I hope to learn a lot from the placement. I see many farmers don't know what goes on past the farm gate.
To give someone like myself coming from a farming, but solely a farming background, the opportunity to see all of that, gain an insight into why one part needs the other part, and not just from a farming background, really did appeal to me.
I think it's great that McDonald's is investing in a program like this. We need more young farmers, and those young farmers need to be more business-minded. They need to be more technical. I think the Farm Forward program is really interesting, and I wish it was in place when I was that age. I think the opportunity for young people to see the whole process from conception, if you like, right the way through to seeing beef grown on farm, right the way to working and seeing the beef sold over the counter in a McDonald's store is a fantastic opportunity, because if you understand your consumer, you'll be a better farmer.
So what a program, right? What a cool, interesting program that they have. They're mostly, like they said, it's mostly British, Irish farming, but they're taking people who want to be involved in farms and training them on all of these issues and helping them to get land. They're helping them to find other farmers to be apprenticeships with. Remember, they stop school at 16 and then can go and do apprenticeships. So they're going out into the countryside and finding farms that they can work on and hopefully maybe take over in future years. So McDonald's is helping. And what think about the marketing, what McDonald's is getting out of this. They have their hands in showing exactly where their food and products coming from, and they're being able to say how things are grown. So very interesting, but we don't have it in the U.S. So let's start writing some letters to McDonald's. No. So if you want to see this, I have this for us, and we can look at it when we meet together again. The other thing I wanted you to be aware of, because we're going to be going and visiting a lot of media, because this is a journalism and agriculture trip, I want to tell you a little bit about the media and how it's structured over there. There's maybe 3 major broadcasting corporations over there. The first and the largest is obviously the BBC. That's the one you guys are watching right now each week, and it's a state-owned media. So it's almost like a PBS type station, but obviously way more advanced. They've got entertainment, regular television. The one that's closest to them in market is ITV PLC. I'm not sure what it stands for. I couldn't figure that out. But they have 12 to 15 regional TV license, so they're the next largest broadcast media. And then you've got News Corporation, who owns British Sky Broadcasting and then a bunch of different newspapers around the country. So you sort of have these 3 major media groups. You also will hear about Trinity Mirror. They own 240 local and regional papers, so they're a large name in the newspaper market there. And then the Daily Mirror and the National Mirror tend to be the major national papers, so your USA Today or your New York Times type of large national papers. One of those papers that we will visit is the Birmingham Post. This is, you know, a traditional post, and you know, I don't know who is their publisher. I meant to look at that, but I did not. We'll have to ask them. Actually, I say that. It says Trinity Mere. So this is one of Trinity's publications. So this is the Birmingham Post. We're going to go and talk to some of their editors. And one of the reasons we visit them is they're a traditional media, but, you know, they're not necessarily totally focused on ag, but they do cover a lot of ag. A large part of the Birmingham area that they reach is out in the countryside. So they do cover issues. They've done major stories and issues all about water quality, things that are happening out in that rural countryside. I probably won't find one here real quick, but all about sort of the city, but also some of that science, some of that business behind agriculture. So they have agricultural writers employed, even at a large post like this, the Birmingham Post, and this is a weekly, so that they come out with. So we'll get to go see these guys, which is really exciting. Beyond that, you know, we're also going to get to see a little bit of ag media. Ag media over there is extremely rich. There are a lot of large agricultural papers. You know, in Ohio, we sort of have the Farm and Dairy, and we have Ohio's Country Journal. There's lots of scattered agricultural publications, newspapers around our country, since we're so spread out. But there's a few very large ones there in the UK, and we're going to get to visit a few of them. The British Guild of Agricultural Journalists is sort of their professional association. Might be something fun if you've got a few time just to Google them and take a look. Interesting, a ton of ag broadcast or ag, typically ag newspaper, magazine type media, not as much video, radio as much as you'll see the print. And then IFAJ is actually the International Federation of Ag Journalists, and there's a lot of ag media in the U.S. who are also members of this. So we're going to get to visit several of these places, and I wanted to show you one, you know, a Farmer's Weekly, a couple magazines that this is Farmer's Weekly. They put out every week, obviously. Nice four-color of news that's happening. This is a larger publication that is fairly nationwide from what I can understand. And they will be one, I think we get to see these guys a little bit. They also publish Country File. So this is a little fancier, this is a little more upscale travel type magazine, but looking at, you know, some of the country, some of the things, the secret life of rabbits, magical boat trips, sort of some of that. The other, we'll get to see some of the newspapers, and we already played a little bit and learned about the Scottish Farmer, and I'm excited to see them. This is what the Scottish Farmer, this was one of their issues, you know, glossy, but then we get into a newsprint type publication. They come out on basically, I think they're a daily publication or a weekly publication, but a huge article focusing on the wool and marketing of lamb. They do a lot of their top cattle, a lot of their shows, so it's very similar to what you would see as an Ohio Country Journal. They also publish the Three Counties Farmer, so Herefordshire, Worcestershire, and Gloucestershire. Some fun words to say. So, you know, this is a cover page article about TB and what it did for a specific farmer, you know, some rare breeds. So very, again, similar, also similar to like what we would see as the Ohio Farmer magazine and sort of that series of farmer magazines in the U.S., sort of that area. The other ones we'll see, I've got some more Scottish farmers. The other one we'll get to see, Farmer's Guardian. This is sort of the competitors, you would say. So Scottish Farmer is more of Scotland. Farmer's Guardian is a little more towards the England, London area. Very similar, a newspaper that comes out, Agriculture's national newspaper, you know, very large publications talking about agriculture, things that are happening. So I think the big thing I wanted to point out to you is there's a lot of ag journalists here in the United States, and we don't hear about them as much unless we're involved in agriculture. But I think what you'll see over in the UK is people are less removed, or not as removed from agriculture. Here in the United States, we were 3-4 generations removed from agriculture, where when you go to the UK, they're only 1 generation, maybe 2 generations removed from a farm. So a lot of them are still very interested in what's happening on the farm. As I said, there's a lot of issues in terms of environment regulations, animal regulations. They're still very involved in that, but they still really want to know what's going on in the countryside. They cherish that area. So you're gonna hear a lot more about agriculture. You're gonna see it a little more integrated than what we may see in some of our big cities here in the United States. So with that, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Look forward to seeing the wonderful stories you found, and we will talk soon.